testament to this program, not only this program, but it's just, you know, my heart is so full to help others and to see their transformation to men and women in sobriety, of integrity in this program. And, you know, it's the foundation of just like that gift of desperation and letting God take charge, you know, because our higher powers is really the forefront of what it's like our leadership skills outside of our very own leadership skills, because God teaches us how to respond to situations. Because if we really stay true, meditate, you know, we can be just the best.
I love what you said, you know, because I talk to my sponsor and I go, oh my gosh, you know, obviously right now in our show, it's pretty tumultuous with the anxiety and the mental illness. And, you know, I'm going to address that tomorrow in my Instagram Live, because, you know, there are certain professions that you can't work in if you suffer from certain, you know, disabilities, and mental illness is a disability. And so is, you know, when you have extreme anxiety and things like that. Here's the difference. When we see that every day, right, in meetings, how many people have anxiety? How many people freak out, right? What is the steps to calm that, right? Is it medication, or is it a practice?
Right.
I think, you know, I'm not a physician, but I also know I've been doing this a long time. I've witnessed a lot of people throughout my 32 years of being sober, of people experiencing these types of situations. And the one thing my sponsor said, Sandy, the only way to get back and to have that, you know, get back into oneself instead of like, you know, hyperventilating, is to meditate. That's the key. You know, it's so interesting. Something that's so free and easy, we revert to medication. A lot of times people need medication, but a lot of times it's an excuse. And hey, listen, I have a past, you know, my past is not rosy. I have never shared the stuff that's happened to me in my past. But if I let my past be in my present, how could I ever be calm in the moment?
Right.
It's dealing with the past, you know, admitting to a person, to another human being in a higher power, and then you move on and you learn from that experience, character building, and that strength comes through your character building. And also when you get in those moments of, you know, where you just want to lose your shit, it's when you go, you breathe, you pick up the phone, you call your sponsor, you're reminded that everything that you have in your mind is not actually real right now. And I'll never forget, I called my friend freaking out once. She goes, she's got 10 more years than me, and she said, Sandy, look at where your feet are. She goes, and take a breath, because everything that you're talking about right now is not happening. It's all in your head. It's what could happen, what did happen, but it's not now. And so staying in that present moment is a practice, isn't it? And I think a lot of times when we have this mental freak out, it's because we're thinking about the future or we're thinking about the past, but we're not in the present. And that's such a thing to master. Don't we all try to do it every day?
100%.
And the best part is the selflessness that we do to help another individual. And that takes us out of that thinking. And that's what I try to do every day. You know, I'll get hundreds of messages on Instagram or Facebook, and I sit down and I try to talk, like, help these people, and I give them avenues. And that, I feel like God's using me on this platform, to be honest. Like, I thank him every day, and when it's over, and there'll be another thing for me. But it's staying out of the ego, staying in the practice, and remember to always take a breath before you react, right? So you get it.
Yes.
I mean, you know, without breaking the traditions, it's so hard, because I'm on TV now. I can't break the 12 traditions. I can't really talk about this, but I can speak about it in different ways.
Right.
And when I have the Travises on board, I've had many through my career. I've helped a lot of people. I know I have. I've always given them 2 ultimatums. And this is when I share. I say, you have 2 choices here. I can fire you, or I can take you to a meeting. And that's what I do. Some have stayed clean and sober for a very long time. They're still sober today, and some have not. But that's what I do. It's like I can't continue, and they have that chapter in our book, to the employer. Right. And I follow that chapter, which is so cool. And that's what I love about the book is like, hey, there's a chapter for that. Hey, there's a solution. Hey, this problem, someone's been there before. They have a solution. And that's what's so great about, the meetings we go to. There's a solution. There's always a solution.
That's amazing, Sandy, that you can really be so vulnerable and also, share your experience, strength, and hope because, especially in yachting, I know first-handedly, we actually are boaters ourselves. And it can be a crazy, business, especially involving mental health. And, mental health, there's definitely co-occurrences with alcoholism and addiction. And, especially if you don't keep your mental health in check, especially with those like free tools that we have with meditation and just like, going and doing a hobby that you love. Like for me, it's playing tennis or singing or just like going and just journaling. The simple things in life are just the things that can get us out of the moment where our minds are just racing.
I ever like look back at your journal through the years and you go, wow, I thought like that, and how your thinking has transformed through the years.
100%. Yeah. So, it's people like you that really inspired me to, start my business, which, we really tailor it to the 18 to 30-year-old crowd and their families, because the families have to be viewed as also, the patient and the alcoholic, because, there's Al-Anon for a reason, because if the family can't recover and understand the illness and the disease that's present, then sobriety almost isn't as, what's the word I'm trying to get at? It's not going to happen as easily because, I really believe like that student, that 20-year-old that was just in that hospital bed saying, Adam, if you continue this, you're going to die. They said this to me, they said, you blew a .39. Like you were almost dead. Like you mixed your ADHD medication, your Prozac, your everything with booze. And, I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like I have such a life that I want to live and that I've envisioned. And, it took me so many hurdles and, 3 sober attempts to get it. And, I moved to New York City and, I had that God moment where I was just like, holy shit, I'm done. Yeah. And after, a year of being sober, I quit my job in real estate and, I've always had this idea to really help the families in need and I went for it. And it's just been, especially with coronavirus happening literally 2 months after I established my business, I had to really opt to, Zoom interventions and case management, and it's been crazy, but, I've allowed myself to just stay in the moment and, think about how I can help someone else every single day.
Yes, exactly. It's interesting because I think about my past and even, at 17, I would walk through the doors and it's very different today. And I like what you said about mental illness. And I learned this a long time ago that, it's our thinking. You can call it whatever you want. I don't know why they call it a mental illness. I guess it is. But I also think it's a training. So I learned if I go for an MRI, some people can't slide in that machine. I learned to just breathe and know that I'm okay sliding through an MRI machine, right? Because I had cancer. The other part I learned is to know that when I'm in my head and I'm trying to create, what's going to happen or how am I going to cover up what I did, what's already happened, that's when I'm in that moment of insanity. They talk about it. Second step, restores the safety.
Exactly.
Like thing, it's actually that. And when I think about the tools that I've been given, and they're all in the big book, it's like, it's all there. When I use those and I practice that and I take that time and I walk to my cabin or I walk to my room, I say that prayer and I ask for that help, I always come out a different person. then I went in. It works. It really does. Or I make that call. And I remember my sponsor telling me once, when you're indecisive, that's not the time to make a decision, right?
Right.
That's not the time. So even though you want to make a decision, but you're not sure, you wait, because the right answer will come. And that's it. It's over and over again. And it's the retraining. And I remember my great nephew was here and he was so freaked out about coronavirus. He's 17. I looked at him, I go, Jeremy, there are pessimists in the world and there are optimists. Which one are you going to be? We will probably all get coronavirus. The fact that you think you're not supposed to get sick tells me that what you're listening to is inaccurate. We're all meant to get sick. We're all meant to get sick. Now, will the bug get weaker? Yes. But I was so concerned for him because he's so germaphobe and so worried that it's not a way to live. I'm like,
no.
Dude, and it could all end tomorrow for you. You could walk outside and get hit by a bus. I got hit by a car. So are you going to live in fear? Or are you going to live in faith? But yes, we have to take corrective measures. But at the same time, you got to talk yourself off the ledge. And to do that, you got to see what's real. And I always say this, when people watch our show, like right now, everybody, their brain determines that I've used the words, I fired Kiko. Those words never came out of my mouth, ever.
Right.
But their mind thinks that I said that. I nodded my head. After 10 or 8 times he said, I can leave. Like he constantly asked. And I said, well, let's get through this charter and we'll talk about it. I said it over and over again. I never used those words, but in their mind, I used those words. And that's why so many people study footage of behavior. And I just think, and that's so interesting. And so for me, that's also a lesson, because when I see something or with my own eyes, I also have to bring in the other facts. You just don't determine based on one fact. And we're taught that. So that brain training, that rethinking, they used to say it's a brainwash. Well, it's a healthy brainwash.
Right.
Because I, as a child, was not taught from my parents. My parents were not great teachers because they also suffer from addiction. There are those kids who are fortunate that have great parents, and I meet them, but I wasn't. And that's okay. I love my mom. I love my dad. They did the best they could. And that's really it. Just seeing. And also it's a disease of loneliness, right?
Right.
See that so many times I think to myself, I got this, but I don't got this because I can't do it alone. It's a we program. Just like there's no I in team, there's no I in we. It's a we program. And I have to remember that. Yes, over the years, I'm a lot quicker to get to a solution, but I don't always go there. And just to remember that I have skin, I'm a human being. If I get knocked down, I pick myself up, I brush myself off, I don't pick up, and I just keep going, right?
100%. That's really inspiring. Your journey has definitely been, an influence on millions of people, because the show is just amazing and I love it. And, I can only imagine the triggers that yachting has. And, I don't know what, and if you do get triggered when you're in some situations like that, obviously with 32 years sober, it's like, it is a daily reprieve. It's one day at a time, because if you don't take it a day, I personally am a victim of relapse. I've mentioned that before. And I remember I had 4 sponsees and I didn't take care of me. I put too much emphasis on them. And, as much as this program allows us to be selfless, we have to be selfish in a way where we have to make sure that our shit is in check. Right.
Always drive your own car to an event, right? You always have your exit. Always.
Right.
We're taught that. Change people, places, and things. You can always go back to that. But when you're, getting started, you have to surround yourself with like-minded people for the same goals. Even in business, I share this with people. If you want to grow a business, then be around business people.
Exactly.
Sometimes your peers aren't those business people. So you need to surround yourself with the people who have tried and failed and tried and succeeded, because we're all going to go through that. And the other part is it's a daily reprieve. And the work I put in for that day will sustain me through the day. But the work, if I don't put that work in, I'm not going to be sustainable. And that's really what I want. And yes, I lose my shit on the show, of course, because I don't get to go to meetings. I don't get to have that. So for those 6 weeks, it's hard for me. I do a lot of reading. I'm on the phone a lot to my sponsor, but my friends in Florida and LA. And I just, for me, it's about taking that time for Sandy. So I'm a whole person when I walk out of my cabin. And some days I'm knocked on the door. I don't have time to do that. I walk out and it's a shit fight. And I just got to go, okay, take a breath, be the person that you want to be the person that treat people how you want to be treated. And that's what I think about. It's the golden rule. I try to practice that, but sometimes you get mad and you lose your shit, and that's okay.
100%. I mean, like for me, I go outside, depending on the weather, with my coffee in the morning, and I write, or at least mentally write a gratitude list. What am I grateful for? 5 things. What am I going to accomplish today? 5 things. And how am I going to help others? 5 things. And once I've done that, I can then resume my day. And that's just the
great tool. That's a great tool. So whoever listens, I hope they use that. Write 5 things, right? 5 things you're grateful for, 5 things you want to accomplish. And at the end of the day, do your 10th step.
Yeah.
Who do I owe amends to? Did I accomplish this? If not, you put it on the list for tomorrow. And know that you were successful. When you watch that Denzel Washington speech, he goes, some days he works every day towards a goal. And he goes, some days it's just not to cuss someone out on the road.
Right.
So funny. So if you accomplish that, if you're one of those people and that day you didn't swear at someone or blow your horn, you've accomplished something.
Exactly.
And that's really that simple. Sometimes it's like really big accomplishments. Sometimes they're the little ones. And the little ones really matter. And they sustain us. And we're like, yeah, I didn't swear at anyone today. And I didn't my horn. And, it's like, yes. Or quit your job, or, what's like in the beginning. You just want to go, oh, screw you. I don't have to deal with this. And so many people walk out. It's like, oh, my God, I don't have a job anymore and I got to pay my rent. That's where you learn to be able to swallow your pride, think about this before you go, I quit.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm so grateful just to be here interviewing with you. I had one last question. I'm not even checking the time, but one last question. What advice would you have for a business owner like me working in this field? What advice would you have to offer me in terms of just staying positive and also, with goal set and with setting goals? I actually just applied for, in addition to all the certifications that I have, I just hit the submission button on graduate school applications for my master's in social work. So really wanting to be, a leader in this industry and just a leader in general. What advice would you have for someone like myself?
Well, my sister, I often watch her because I learned this from her. When we get emotional and people, they stop listening and they start watching. And I thought also you can use that by watching their example. And she said to me, she doesn't worry about the things that she can't control. So you submitted your application. So now you have to have that faith that you're going to, get the response, right? So then when you get that response, you're going to do the work. And I highly recommend when we hang up, you Google Denzel Washington, God First speech, because in there he talks about daily goals, goals. It's such a great speech. Have your goals, exactly what you do. So many business people I talk to. Sometimes what you think is how your business is going to be is not what your clients decide. So you have to be able to shift in that direction. And I worked for an attorney once, and he said he always wanted to practice criminal law. But everybody that walked through his door wanted personal injury. So he became a personal injury attorney, even though he wanted to be a criminal lawyer. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Remain teachable. Stay compassionate, but also know your worth. There's a fine line in everything that you do, right? When you're on that line, that's when you seek the advice of your peers. people you respect, people who have been there before you, and that's what I do. Every time I'm in a situation, and I texted a lawyer over the weekend, a maritime lawyer. She answered me. She's my lawyer. And she gave me facts. I'm like, oh, yeah. And it brought me back as the captain with the facts. I'm like, stick to the facts, stick to the facts. And so it's really, I think if you do that, you look like and sound like an amazing human being. And I'm so proud of you. And you're such an example for people. Just remain that, always remain teachable. And that, I think, is the key to life. Don't you?
I agree. You can never think that you've mastered anything, because it's just, you have to continue working on yourself, because nobody's perfect. If I was perfect, if we were all perfect, like, what's the meaning to life? It's like, okay, life's over. We're all perfect. Like, what else? Just like, plop me on a beach somewhere. It doesn't work that way. We have to continuously remain teachable and just have a hunger for knowledge and a thirst for knowledge.
And one other thing, and I'll never forget this, I was taught how important the 9th step is. So sometimes when you make a mistake, you need to read that 9th step, because except when to do so would injure them or others. And that doesn't mean you purge your conscience at the expense of someone else because you did something to them. That means you live with that, what you did, and you share that with your sponsor or someone else. So that's really important. And I learned that the hard way. The other thing is, when you're leading people, you always have to think about your primary goal. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're human beings. Of course, you want to stay compassionate, but keep the emotions out of it. You have to stick to the facts, and that's not always easy. And many times, I have had to retreat to stick to the facts. And, that's really it. That's what helps me sustain my type of leadership. I'm writing a book now. And it's so interesting to keep reading all these experiences I've had over the years and how I've led and how I've grown. And that teachability, remaining teachable, is the number one thing. Also, don't compromise yourself, because, we compromise in other ways, but not your integrity. And that's really important. And if you find yourself there, it's time to change.
100%.
Navigate your course, alter course.
Yes. And I love what you said about, you could be an optimist and, live in faith, and be a pessimist and live in fear. The name of our first boat was The Optimist.
I love that.
And so I always, that's like a huge part of my vocabulary. And I always remember to stay, optimistic about everything. And it was just such a pleasure to be here and meet with you. I hope that we can remain in touch.
Of course.
I would love to have you speak at one of my events in person.
Yeah.
I think that you're just a phenomenal inspiration, and your smile is just like exuding joy, just like through the screen.
No idea. Thank you.
You're just an amazing person, and I look forward to staying in touch with you again. And as much as I'm starstruck, I'm just so delighted to be here with you. You're just awesome.